Now it's time for This Week in District 10. This Week in District 10 is brought to you by Flynn's Tires and Auto Service. Here's Bob Greenberg and the Erie Times' Tom Reisenweber.
And it's that time of the week. This Week in District 10, Tom Reisenweber joining us. And Tom, interesting week in sports in District 10. One of the highlights, District 10 had their monthly meeting last Wednesday, which we both attended, and a lot of little tidbits in there. I think one of the big stories for me was the District 10 will be hosting their first in-person annual meeting since spring of 2019.
Yeah, it's always a good meeting at the end of the year. They get together and they honor the state champion coaches and anyone else that's need a service award for their careers. And it's always a good time to see all the mostly athletic directors who make it. D10 has a good meeting with them, and it's part of. I didn't realize so years ago that I guess Dr. Lombardi or someone from PNWA attends all of these meetings. And I guess every district has them. So I remember going to it years ago when Dr. Lombardi first came on, and he had a couple things to tell everyone. So maybe he'll be there again, or Melissa Mertz from the PNWA. But overall, it's always a good meeting to end the season on, or end the year on, even though there's still a month and a half left in the year.
And it will continue my streak, Tom, of not being invited now for 36 straight years.
We'll have to fix that. We got to get you the service award for having all these decades of service. So we got to get you in there.
I'm on the basketball committee. Does that help at all? Get me an invite to this thing? But I'm not getting invited. Some other cool tidbits from this District 10 meeting, and I thought the one that jumped out to me was Union City School District has developed a course titled PLWA Sports Officiating. The class will help provide a feeder system in recruiting of young officials. And I could see this thing being something that other schools could do statewide and could really be the kind of the feeder for young officials now in the state.
Yeah, I'd love for it to be in all these schools, basically as a course elective, even if it was something like after school or on weekends, some elective that maybe other people from other schools could take. Maybe you have one school hosted per county. You have one Mercer County school, one Erie County school, one Crawford County school hosted, and the PLWA or D10 can pay for it maybe to help offset costs and let these kids do this. So I think once kids realize that they know the rules already, they know most of it. They may not know all the fine details or the technical calls on these sports, but I think the confidence will grow once they learn those rules. And maybe part of the course could be going out and doing a game or two. But I think it's a great idea by Union City. It's probably long overdue. I know Fort LaBeouf's going to try it as well, and hopefully more schools do it. It definitely encourages, even if kids take it and don't become officials, you're creating, I think, more aware fans as they grow older and say, well, wait a minute, I know what officials are supposed to do. I can't complain about this. I can't complain about this and that as fans. So I think it works several different ways in a positive way.
Yeah, and from what the report was last Wednesday, District 10 added 15 junior officials this year. And these are under 18-year-olds that are going and officiating pretty much everything other than varsity games. So that's 15's 15. If they can grow that over the next few years, that definitely helps.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I think some of these kids they need to go to an informational meeting and find out what it's all about. I think if they realize that officiating can be something they can handle on themselves, and it's extra money for going to college, or if you don't want to work a job like a fast food job, you can be an official, 3-4 nights a week. But you always need junior high officials, JV, freshmen, all kinds of sports going on. Even not the main sports, you have junior high basketball going on not during the wintertime. So there's always some sport going on that they can officiate and make a little bit of money and know what they're doing. So I think once it clicks for more college kids, you might see more of them come out and become officials.
District 10 also approved going back to Meadville Country Club for District 10 golf this fall, and the Ed Meyer Complex in Titusville for District 10 cross country. Seems like those are two favorites of District 10 at this point.
Yeah, pretty much well-oiled machines when those events are taking place. The golf is pretty pretty easy. The directors do a good job spacing out the contenders and making sure no one's sitting around waiting to play. Same with cross country. Matt Maloney does a great job running that whole thing. It's a great event for the Titusville area. It's worked out really well since they've gone there. So 2 home run sites and events for District 10 as far as championship events go.
Some other tidbits. The Butler School District versus PIAA and District 10 saga is over, as we were told that all parties have signed off on the future agreement. Butler will participate in the fall football playoffs this year in District 10, and that'll be it. Then they return to District 7 in the new cycle.
Yeah, it's finally an ending to this whole thing, which I'm not sure if it's a great ending or not. I mean, we knew eventually Butler was going back to WPIL. It was just a matter of when they felt comfortable doing that, and their program was headed in the right direction. They're building up players. Maybe it didn't help so much that Butler, they saw the level of play in District 10, and then all of a sudden one of their best players is moving to Farrell. So all of a sudden they lost a really good player this year. So I think Butler, for most of it, has been very positive. I think they've developed a pretty good rivalry with McDowell. Every time they've played has been kind of, I don't want to say nasty, but there's been tension there. I think Butler feels like they're the team that's going to beat McDowell before Erie does. And McDowell is, they're not going to put up with that stuff. So it's a lot of fun to watch those two play each other on the football field. Hopefully they continue that after this year, despite them being different districts. Yeah,
I'll say this, Tom. And you're right. Nobody won here, and ultimately Butler, who basically thought we're going to try to save our football program, and then had to battle both District 7 and the PIAA in court. Spent a lot of money on attorney's fees, hurt their kids. They didn't hurt their kids. They tried to help their kids. I think that's was the sad part of this whole story, that a school district had to, go to court to try to save their football program.
Exactly. It went too far with this, standoff between the Butler and PIAA and WPIL. And the worst part about it is it was fine for years. And then the new director, Whippeal, caused these problems, and then she was gone a year later. So it didn't even matter that she did that, except it left chaos in her wake. So it was a tough situation overall. I don't know why, the PIAA, all of a sudden Dr. Lombardi had a problem with it 2-3 years into this thing, but they improved it when they first started it. So I don't understand what that was all about. It just seemed like there was a lot of confusion, a lot of lack of communication, which I think has been a problem at times with PIAA. When we look at Quippa football, other cases with public versus private, COVID, it seems like the communication, there's just a breakdown between the PIAA headquarters and what's going on in the rest of the state. And this is another example of that. If these guys had just sat down with Butler and WPIL and the PIAA, they probably could have worked this all out when it first happened. But, of course, it had to go to court, and it cost so much money and so much time that it was just ridiculous. Yeah,
I think that's what irritates me the most. The PIAA is there to look out for the kids and, the member schools. And then it got to the point it was so bad the member school had to sue them. I mean, it makes no sense to me. And but the story is over. The saga is over. Now, I heard this story, and maybe you know more than I do, but what is this story? Because I've never heard this before. A Erie High School fan during the basketball playoffs got ejected, but apparently didn't want to leave the gym. And now I learned something I didn't know, that schools have the authority to remove their own fans from home games or on the road. I never thought a school could go, if you're playing away, that you had the authority to throw anybody out. That's news to me.
Yeah, and I wish more schools would take control of their fans on the road and at home. Yeah, basically, it's just a wild story that there's an assistant coach. It's not even just a fan. An assistant boys basketball coach at Erie High constantly disagreeing with the head coach on how the program should be run and how things should be done. I think he was in favor of a different coach taking over when the three schools consolidated. So he's a pretty big critic, and he sat there during a playoff game when Erie High played one of their sub-regionals at Prep, and was criticizing the coach and the team the entire game, even though Erie High came back to win. I think it was against Alderdice, and had a huge win. And the prep administration tried to eject him. He wouldn't leave. I guess it got kind of ugly, and they had to have meetings about it. And he was banned, really banned from the rest of the playoffs. That's why Erie High had to play its next sub-regional game, because their gym wasn't good enough, so they had to go on the road. They played their next game as a home game at McDowell because prep would not let them come back. So it was just kind of an ugly situation with fans, and it's one of those things where coaches and officials just take so much abuse from fans that it's got to stop. We're not going to have anyone left to coach or to be officials. It's just going to be kids not being able to play sports anymore. So I believe there's been some discussions with that coach and the administration, and hopefully when we get around to it in November, everything's kind of worked out.
And you mentioned that, and we'll close out on this last topic. We mentioned fans and coaches making it hard on officials. And then the story came out of Union City about their broadcast crew that on video yelling at the umpires at the end of a game after a controversial call. And I had posted about it, and I got blowback from Union City folks. And I'm stunned that they don't get the fact that, forget about the call, it's the fact that a media person, so-called media person, was screaming at umpires on live video about the call, and they don't get that that's so inappropriate.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can't be both. You can't be media, and you can't be a fan. You're either one or the other when you cover a game. Now you might be happy a team wins or it does well. That's fine, but you can't lose your mind and scream at officials and umpires. And you watch the video. Right as the game's over, he goes outside of the press box, starts yelling at the home plate umpire, and then he intentionally waits until the base umpire comes off, and then starts yelling at him. And you just can't do that if you're going to be in the media, if you're going to be broadcasting games. I've seen that before with other broadcasters. They've been fired or they've been banned for the season, that kind of thing. If I were the two umpires, I would immediately call over the AD or the administration and say, you got to take care of him. We're never doing one of your games again, kind of thing. So I saw the interactions. They're making a joke about it, which is ridiculous. You can't act that way if you're going to be in the media. If you want to be a fan, that's perfectly fine. Set up the camera and go sit in the stands. You can't just be both. And I think that's one of the bad things that came out of broadcasting during COVID. It was good that a lot of games were broadcast and people were trying to set up broadcasts for every game because you couldn't go to them as fans. But we had people who aren't professional broadcasters, who aren't professional when they're doing these things, all of a sudden in charge and being the voice. And just some of that is still kind of lingering on.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And just it crossed the line in my mind, and it really irritated me. But, Tom, appreciate all you do. Last update, you've been hearing about it all week. When are the all-region teams coming out?
I believe they're scheduled for Wednesday morning, maybe one Wednesday, one Thursday, but it will be this week, and then all-district next week. Also, update everyone, still have not received ballots for the all-state team, so we're still probably 2-3 weeks away from that coming out. So kind of a slow go to wrap up the winter right now.
People are very patient in Pennsylvania when it comes to this stuff, but we know you do a great job. We appreciate it, Tom. Thanks for all you do, and we'll talk to you next Monday.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob.
All right, Tom Reisenweber of the Erie Times.